a.m. and I would like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome those who are participating in the Board of Education meeting in person and those watching the meeting via live streaming on YouTube. We would ask that anyone addressing the board to use the microphone at the podium and to identify themselves for the record. As a reminder, the link to the meeting is on the district webpage under Board of Education. The streaming will run through the end of the meeting. In the event there is a disruption in the streaming, I will pause the meeting until it is reestablished. Before we continue, I would like to ask all of you to join me for a moment of silence for Sergio Aldaz, who is a senior and attended Los Lunas High School and recently passed away. His family is holding their son's final services this evening. So if you would join me, please. Thank you. We are on item A, call to order. Number 1, Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, we are pleased to have 2 students to lead the pledge, Mr. Shiloh Wielander from Bosque Farms Elementary and Darren Lujan from Sundance Elementary. Would you join me at the front, please? I won't bite, I promise. Come all the way up. Good job. Turn around. Nicely job. Nice. Before we begin the pledge, I would like to ask Mrs. Chavez to read their bios afterwards. We will enjoy welcoming them and thanking them.
All right, we'll start with Shiloh Wielander, who is a 6th grader at Bosque Farms Elementary. She is a dynamic student who excels both in the classroom and in a variety of extracurricular activities. With a passion for sports, music, leadership, and the arts, Shiloh has embraced a wide range of interests that reflect her determination, creativity, and love for learning. One of Shiloh's greatest achievements is her 4-year involvement in hockey. In addition, she has been an active member of Girl Scouts for the past 7 years. She is also a passionate softball player. Shiloh's talents extend beyond sports. She is also an accomplished musician, playing both the piano and the flute. This year, Shiloh joined the 6th grade band at Bosque Farms Elementary, where she plays the flute. When Shiloh is not on the ice, field, or at the piano, she enjoys expressing her creativity through arts and crafts. One of her favorite hobbies is crocheting. Crocheting allows her to unwind and create tangible handcrafted items. Shiloh also enjoys drawing and often spends her free time sketching and experimenting with different artistic techniques. At school, Shiloh's favorite part of the day is spending time with her friends and engaging in learning. She is an enthusiastic student who enjoys collaborating with classmates and tackling new academic challenges. Shiloh is an extraordinary student with a wide array of interests and talents. Her involvement in sports, music, leadership, and the arts highlights her ability to manage multiple commitments while excelling in each area, constantly demonstrating a positive attitude and a willingness to learn and grow. As she continues to pursue her many interests, Shiloh's passion, creativity, and leadership will undoubtedly inspire those around her. With her dedication and enthusiasm, she is poised to continue achieving great things throughout her 6th grade year and beyond. Whether in the classroom, on the field, or within her community, Shiloh's energy and commitment to her personal growth make her a standout student at Bosque Farms Elementary. Let's give Shiloh's hat. Meet Darren Lujan, a proud student representative of Sundance Elementary. Darren Lujan has been a part of the Sundance Elementary community since kindergarten. This year, he's actively involved in the Native American Club with Miss Serna, proudly representing his heritage as a member of Isleta Pueblo. Darren comes from a family with strong Sundance roots. His older brother, Kevin Lujan Jr., also attended Sundance, and his parents, Patricia and Kevin Lujan, often attend Sundance family events. Most recently, Darren enjoyed attending Family Paint Night with his mom, a fun community event. Darren loves being at Sundance, a school he describes as a nice, big school with so many things to learn and do. His favorite subjects in Miss Atencio's 6th grade class are English language arts and history because he enjoys learning about events from the past. Miss Atencio adds, Darren comes in each day greeting me with a smile and asking, "How are you today, Miss Atencio?" He demonstrates respect and positive interactions every day and always wants to do his absolute best. Darren also has a special place in his heart for the library, where he loves checking out books to read with Miss Hidon and staying active with fun games in PE with Mr. Hall. Outside of school, Darren is a dedicated baseball player and has been playing since he was just 4 years old. He's even made the Sletta Little League All-Star team 3 times. When he's not on the field, you can find Darren playing outside, visiting the park, or working on his drawings. He loves being creative. For Darren, Sundance is more than just a school. It's a place where he's made lifelong friends, learned new skills, and discovered future dreams. Speaking of dreams, Darren has big plans. He hopes to become a bull rider and later study engineering in college. As he said himself, this school can make big dreams come true. Thank you, Darren.
Please stand for the pledge. Nicely done. That's what he said. So if I could go down, say hello. I was gonna say. Go. There you go. Oh, I didn't know. Adorable. You mean we lost it out there, Mr. Thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate you sharing your children with us. That's very nice. Yeah. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your children with us.
Thank you.
We are now on item A2, ascertain quorum. Mrs. Wolf, please take roll call and announce it for the minutes. If any board members are absent, please announce that. I am present.
Here. Here. Here.
I'm here.
Thank you very much. We are now on item B, announcement of the meeting. Ms. Chavez, would you please announce the meeting?
This meeting has been announced in accordance with the Open Meetings Resolution and is a legally constituted meeting of the Los Altos Schools Board of Education.
Thank you very much. We are on item C, the executive approval of the prioritized agenda. Ms. Chavez, are there any changes or deletions to the agenda?
There are no changes or deletions to the agenda.
Thank you very much. I would stand for a motion regarding the approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr.
second.
Talley. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I have a motion by Mr. Talley and a second by Mr. Bennett to approve the agenda as submitted. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, I will call for the vote. Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Talley,
Yes.
Mrs. Simoia,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. We are on item D, pricing results update from the RBC Capital. We have a guest with us, Mr. Eric Harrigan from RBC Capital.
Good evening. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Eric Harrigan with RBC Capital Markets. So as part of the authorization process that the board gave for the district to issue $6 million in voter authorized bonds, the district authorized to sell those bonds through the New Mexico Finance Authority and delegated to the superintendent and staff to award the sale to and to effectively sign the pricing certificate, awarding the sale to the New Mexico Finance Authority. And as part of that process, we come back and report the sale results to the board. I will let you know that all of the parameters set out in the delegation were met. The interest rate on the bonds was 2.631%. The timing of the sale benefited the district up, kind of at the beginning of September and sort of mid-August. Interest rates started to rally in anticipation of the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates. It did cut interest rates at its September meeting by 50 basis points. Rates kind of continued to rally a little bit up until October. That's since kind of reversed course, but really after the district locked in its interest rates would probably be about 20 to 25 basis points higher today if we had waited to price those bonds. So we were pleased with the result of the sale. The final maturity was 12 years, 2036. And the sale of these bonds continues to maintain the district's historical debt service tax rate of roughly $8.15. Again, this met all of the parameters that were set out in the delegation that the board approved, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the sale or about the process or anything that you would like to discuss.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions or items for discussion from any members of the board? Mr. Vickers?
No.
Mr. Bennett?
No.
Mr. Talley?
Nope.
Mrs. Simoia?
No, thank you, Rick.
I want to thank you very much because I know in your previous presentation, you were very detailed and you gave us quite a bit of information and tolerated our questions and spears and all of those things before. So thank you. I think that we have no questions for you, but I
Very good.
appreciate you being here. Please drive home safely. This item was for information purposes only. No action is needed or warranted. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We are on item E. This is the Acting Superintendent of Schools report from Mrs. Susan D. Chavez. And I will turn this over to you now, Mrs. Chavez.
Thank you, Dr. Wasowski. I would like to call Sandy Tracek to the podium to discuss our budget and finance report.
Madam President, members of the board, here are the state of finances with the budget authority amount for each fund, the amount that is either spent or encumbered, and the remaining amount, and then the remaining percentage. As I have mentioned before, like in the operational, that looks at this time of the year, only having 20% remaining, 26% remaining. Sounds like a small amount, but that's because all of the salaries that are under contract are already encumbered. And to kind of give an idea of, how slow that percentage just does change. Last month, it was 27%, and now it's 26%. I think we've also kind of discussed a few of the ones that are in the negative or ones that have always had to have operational help pick up those costs at the end of the year. If you run down, there are some that are in the works. If you look, the universal free lunch, looks like nothing's been spent yet. And that is when our claims have been approved. We move expense out of the normal student nutrition into the universal free amount. So that number will change. I believe it'll probably will start changing next month. Expenses will get started to get added in there. Yeah, mentioned some of the other funds that are in the negative. They're the same ones that they were before. So are there any questions on any of the funds that you see there that you would like to discuss?
I have a question on Fund 24183. don't think that we've talked about that one before, but that's another 0% for encumbered. It's not a very big amount, but just not familiar with it. It's the USDA 2010 Equipment Assistance
Oh.
Program.
Yes, so that is a fund that we received a grant for, I'm trying to remember what kind of kitchen. It was for freezer or refrigerator. So that purchase order is in there, so it was an award for 16,000 and it was put in saying, we're gonna purchase this, I think it was a freezer. We're gonna purchase this freezer, and then, so soon as we were given the award, we put the purchase order in. So that it was just a one item purchase. And, sometimes we've had that fund in the past, last time we bought kettle or something like that, so.
Okay.
They're just one-time awards.
And the same thing, we have a 0% sitting on Fund 24355, Homeless Emergency Rescue Fund 2. Again, not a very large amount. It looks like all but $80 was spent of it. What was that for?
The two for what?
24355,
Oh,
Homeless Emergency Rescue Fund 2, ARP. funds.
Okay, so those are, the two funds on those are the ones that had to have everything encumbered by September. And then everything paid for by, the end of October. So those were funds that have carried over for the last 3 years. And they are finally finishing, but they, were done September 30th. To be paid, and then we asked for reimbursement, so those are good to be down at the low amounts.
That's all of the questions I have. Members of the board, do you have any questions, Mr. Vickers?
No, I don't.
Mr. Bennett? Mr. Talley?
I have one question, just out of curiosity, line item 25184, Indian Ed Formula Grant. What is that one used for?
That one is a Native American grant that we have, and it has to be, it only is given for like the year.
Is that for the
Okay.
teacher that teaches the course?
Not that, no, not.
Mr. Tully, that's used partially to pay for the salary for the Native American liaison, one of them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Do you have any other questions? Mrs. Simoia?
I do have a question. Ms. Sandy, on, Fund 24118, fresh fruit and vegetables, and 27183, New Mexico grown fresh fruit and veggies. I love that, by the way. Is one a federal funding and one is a state funding? Can you explain why they're broken out like that?
Those are, let me see. My glasses
And I
are here.
apologize if you need to get back to me on that. I was just wondering why the funds were broken out. I'm assuming it's the way they're funded, but
The
yeah.
27183 one
Mhm.
is a state one,
Uh-huh.
and the other one is a federal.
Okay, so they're required that they're split out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that your only question, Mrs. Simoia?
That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Raisik.
I didn't have a presentation for revenue. However, the operational revenue looks fine. On the 40th day is not certified yet, but it looks as though we possibly might have a 40th day adjustment, so revenue hopefully will go up.
Yay. We're looking forward to that.
And then for our audit, we met monthly again with our audit committee. And our auditors said that we are on track for the items that have been requested by them, we have provided, so. Everything so far, as far as being on track, is doing well. That is all I have.
Great, thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Tracick. I would like to call up Mrs. McMinn for our monthly construction update.
Madam President, members of the board, acting superintendent, Ms. Chavez, thank you for having us this evening to go over some of the projects that we've been working on in our department. So to start, some of our construction in progress, we're still continuing progress on our Los Angeles High School Stadium Phase 1. We did run into quite some issues on a lot of existing utility lines that ran through the front of that stadium. There's a lot of cities fiber optic, sewer lines, water lines, our fiber lines, electrical lines, transformer lines. And so a lot of that had to be evaluated and some re-engineering on the walkways to ensure that we have access in the future and that we've repaired any lines that were hit. So with those all being identified and corrected, we're able to see continued progress. I think a lot of people have seen a lot of sidewalks go in on the front. And then also we had some long lead times on the block needed for our building. We've got news that we'll start seeing that come in November. So we'll start seeing the foundations get put in for the actual building as we're wrapping up that front entranceway walkways. We also will be seeing LLE has started their pre-K canopy this week. Our West Side Transportation is seeing some improvements. With that project, it encompasses fixing electrical outlets for our buses so we don't have issues in the winter as they're needing to stay warm. We're also repairing some asphalt and installing a large canopy over our athletic buses area. That has begun. A lot of investigation on the electrical line has been happening last week. We are also doing our district service center roof repairs, and that encompasses over the our transportation department's work area, student nutrition and maintenance's workshop. That roof is being resealed up. We're kind of buttoning up what we already have, replacing panels that are rusted and corroded, and then it'll receive a full coating. And we actually just wrapped up last week some concrete repairs east of our district service center. Special services across the street. Much needed ADA access was corrected for that area. Upcoming projects we anticipate in the coming month, we'll be seeing pre-K canopies for KGE and Tomé. Those will wrap up the last of our canopies that we had scheduled for pre-K. We'll also see district repairs happening at Valencia Middle School. I believe they started those yesterday as we didn't have students on campus. And then we will also see our central office parking lot be redone. So that'll be a little bit of inconvenience for some time. We'll be pushing that off till after our election day so we don't and cause any more disturbance for all our community members that will be using the polling site here. And then just going in some highlights of things we've seen completed through the district. We did do a roofing replacement on a section of roof at Century High School. This is an area that was extremely in need of it, to say the least. So they've taken that all the way down to the decking, made repairs where needed, and built that roof completely back up. So that's them working on the site. It is completed. And then another ongoing project we have is at Sundance Elementary. Again, it's another roofing project that is happening through all of our flat roofs up there, repairs to aging roofing system, coating on the whole entire roof. That will wrap up probably about the first, second week of November, pending weather. The next slide, you'll see some of our pre-K canopies that went up at Bosque Farms Elementary and Sundance. And next is a little update at Peralta Elementary. This is on the second story. It now has concrete. That's when they started pouring in the mornings of our second story, which is the 4th grade through 6th grade wing of Peralta. And the last slide is just another aerial view from a different angle from Molina Road there. That's looking on at the pre-K center building. We've already seen most of the block and the brick. They have started stuccoing and preparing for that as they continue weather tightening that building. They did receive a lot of paint this week. We'll be starting to see all the interiors come together. And then if you take a look in front of you, I know you might not see it from sitting behind, but we have current renderings of what the building's going to look like with all the current color selections, placements of those on the building. So after the board meeting, you can take a look around the front of you here. The audience can all see it. The audience can see all the renderings, but these are the final color choices, and they've updated our renderings for us so the community can see these pictures. We'll be taking these back to Peralta Elementary, so all the students can see them and they come in the building and staff that visit and parents as well. So with that, I stand for any questions.
Mr. Vickers, any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any.
Mr. Bennett?
No, how are we doing on the schedule, Peralta? It looks like it's going up very quick.
We're on schedule.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
Mr. Talley?
No, just thank you for the report. This is great.
Mrs. Simoia?
Again, Stephanie, thank you for the report. Just a question, when is the stadium process supposed to be done, phase one?
So for phase one, anticipate a February completion of the whole project. We did have some delays due to weather and also all the utility lines,
Yeah.
but we're hoping to see that we can catch up through the building once they finish up this front part.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I was up at the stadium quite a bit this last week and I appreciated all of the construction that's going on and what it's going to look like. I had an opportunity to visit with the attorney from TRC and he was asking me all sorts of questions that I could not answer about how things were going and what we had to look out for. And he and his wife expressed appreciation for how nice we keep our campuses and that we're constantly upgrading and whatnot. So I wanted to extend those congratulations to you and the staff because it looks really pretty amazing. And I think we're all pretty excited about that. So, and I did appreciate the way the barriers were located to kind of mitigate some traffic concerns and some pedestrian concerns. So it looks really good and I'm excited to see it. So thank you for the update.
Thank you, Mrs. McCann. So last week was an incredibly challenging week for our district. We would like to extend our sincere condolences to the Aldaz family. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and the district community. Thank you to all our staff who provided exceptional support and comfort to our students and staff last week. I am so appreciative to everyone and truly blessed to work with such amazing staff members. Thank you also to staff who responded to a medical emergency. Their quick thinking provided the medical support necessary at that time. Hope we never have to have a week like we had last week. So thank you to all who got us through that. On a much happier note, we would like to congratulate our maintenance team for receiving the Ben Lujan Maintenance Team Award from the Public Schools Facility Authority that was awarded to the team yesterday. So congratulations to Mrs. McMahon and her department. Very much well deserved.
Yeah.
And finally, we have community night on Friday night at Valencia High School. Students will be admitted to the game for free and hot dogs will be given to fans. Last week, we had our 40-day count. That was on October 9th, last Wednesday. Enrollment has increased, like Mrs. Trezek had reported, from last school year's 40-day count. So we're very excited about that. We did not hit the 1% enrollment growth. However, we have an increase in students and we're moving in the right direction. We also did see an increase of the number of students with special needs from last year to this year. That number continues to rise. And we will continue to monitor our enrollment numbers on a daily basis, but we are overall pleased that we are seeing enrollment move in a positive direction.
Thank you very much.
I have an update on Raymond Gobaldon Elementary. District administrators met with the Public School Facilities Authority officials in late summer. PSA provided the district the opportunity to modify the current pre-K center award to a full standard-based award. Board approval will allow the district to proceed with applying for a full standard-based award to the PSFA, and this will include a complete rebuild of RGE with a full pre-K center. So we are very, very excited about the update. And finally, I was asked to talk about the drop-off and pickup procedures, more specifically at our elementary schools, because our secondary schools are a little bit different. More of the students either drive or they ride the bus. Our elementary schools, if you've been to an elementary school across our district, it's quite interesting, and it's a science how all of our students arrive safely and how they all get picked up and they go home at the end of each day. Every school has their own procedures and guidelines. I did actually spend some time at Valencia Elementary School during the pickup time, and we have a large traffic problem on Monica Road. I was at times very worried, even though we did have traffic control. There were some cars that were trying to get around each other on Monica and they were going on the wrong side of the road. So I know that those delays during pickup is causing traffic blockages. We are addressing those and some updates will be forthcoming. It did take me about 25-30 minutes to get through, but I did want to experience what our families experience because we do get calls. So I can understand, I can understand their frustration, but we are working on a plan and Mrs. McMinn did talk to me about that today. And we've been moving forward with the next steps. And we need to ensure that we do it right because of the wonderful weather we have here in New Mexico. If we do not follow all the steps, we could actually create more problems than solutions.
We don't want anybody harmed, so I appreciate your diligence.
And that will conclude my report.
Item E, the sections that Mrs. Chavez provided were for informational purposes only. No action is needed or warranted at this time. We are on to item F, board commendations. Mr. Vickers, do you have anything you would like to raise?
I actually do.
Please note the time, 6:30 PM. Mr. Vickers.
So I just wanted to highlight, there's an organization in the community called Feed New Mexico Kids. Their mission is to help provide weekend snacks, healthy snacks for children who are experiencing food insecurity. They provide a 1 gallon Ziploc bag, includes a napkin, a spoon, and 10 to 12 easy open items that a 5-year-old could open and eat. And many of the items are high protein. And it's just a way of sort of getting them through the weekend with some nourishment. They go through the principal and counselors at the various schools that are served and deliver the bags packed and ready to go every Friday. And then the school counselor or the staff gets them to the children who need them. There are over 50 volunteers who stock foods, pack snack bags, and then deliver the bins of food to each school involved. They started operating in the fall of 2019. Since then, they have delivered 26,126 bags, 65,315 pounds of food.
That's amazing.
They started with 3 schools and they are currently delivering and serving 7 schools. Bosque Farms, Peralta, Valencia Elementary, and Parish, Tomei, Valencia High School, and Valencia Middle School. And you have the volunteers, but you also have our staff that cooperates because it can't get done without that cooperation from the staff at those 7 schools. So
That is
just
amazing.
wanted to highlight that.
Thank you very much. I didn't know anything about that. That is awesome. Thank you very much. Mr. Bennett. So. You have homework? Mr. Talley?
Are you gonna assign me homework too?
Yes, yes, I am.
No.
Mrs. Seymour.
Not at this time, but I have homework.
You have homework. So I have a few that I would like to raise. First of all, sincere appreciation to every staff member, including amazing leadership that stepped up on a nasty Sunday to provide the much needed resources. And we know there was more than enough trauma to be shared, and I appreciated the updates. I appreciated the leadership. I appreciated the compassion and the care that all of you showed. So thank you, each and every one of you, for your leadership, even on a weekend. I appreciate it very much, plus all of the staff that were out there. We also had 2 amazing teachers at a school recently that responded miraculously. And we have some joy that we get to experience because of their nice job. And we have to keep some of these things a little bit private because of the situation that was involved. but I hope those people know who they are. But they were amazing and their response was incredible. And we are very pleased that they are part of the Los Lunas Schools community. The next thing I want to commend are the students that showed up at last Thursday's celebration for our student. They were so polite and respectful and thoughtful with the family and with each other, and they were kind, and their show of love was overwhelming. I don't think Mrs. Trazik or I or Mrs. Montano, we had any dry eyes. I think Mr. Baca tried to walk away before we could see that, but it was, our students were amazing. They were absolutely amazing. So I want to commend our Los Lunas Schools family for being a family in a time of need. I'm moving on to item G, public comment. Mrs. Wolf, do we have any public comment this evening?
Yes, Dr. Sosky, you have one.
Thank you very much. Move to public comment. I would like to remind our audience of the board's procedures for handling public comment, which are found in Board Policy B 2150 BEDH. Public comment is limited to 5 minutes per individual speaker. However, the board president may further restrict or waive these time limits based on the number of speakers. The board welcomes public input. The board does not prohibit public criticism or comment upon personnel matters, but does discourage personal attacks on board members, staff, personnel, or other persons. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that convey an unjustly unfavorable impression may subject the presenter to civil action. Any person making public comments shall be solely responsible for the content of his or her comments. The board neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by individuals during the public comment section of the board meeting. I would like to invite Ms. Amber Rodriguez, please, to the podium. And I know, Mrs. Rodriguez, you're familiar with our really touchy little microphone there. So if you would step back just a little bit from it, and when you are ready.
Good evening, Madam President, school board members, Acting Superintendent, Mrs. Chavez, and the rest of the community, faculty, students who are here tonight. I thank you for this opportunity to pray and declare these 12 scripture verses over the children of all Los Lunas Public Schools in Valencia County. Psalms 8, 4 through 5, which states, "What is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor." Psalms 139, 13, which states, "For you, O Lord, have formed the children of Los Lunas Public Schools in our state in their inward parts, and you have knitted them together in their mother's wombs." Jeremiah 1:5, which states, "Before I formed you, the children of Los Lunas Public Schools in our state in the womb, you knew them. Before they were born, you set them apart. You appointed them as prophets to the nations." Genesis 1:27, which states, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them." Matthew 19:4, which states, "Haven't you read," he replied, that at the beginning, the Creator made them male and female." Deuteronomy 22:5, which states, "A woman must not wear men's clothing, and a man must not wear women's clothing. This is an abhorrent to the Lord your God." Genesis 2:23 through 24, which states, "The man said, 'This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of men. That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they became one flesh.'" Deuteronomy 6, 6 through 8, which states, "These commandments that I have given you today are to be on the hearts of the children of Las Lunas Public Schools and the state of New Mexico's hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads." Galatians 5:13 through 14, which states, "You, my brothers and sisters, including children of Las Lunas Public Schools in the state of New Mexico, were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh, rather serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this command: love your neighbor as yourself." Galatians 5:1, which states, "It is for freedom that Christ has set the children of Las Lunas Public Schools in the state of New Mexico free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery." 1 Peter 2:16, which states, "Live as free people, children of Las Lunas Public Schools in the state of New Mexico, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Live as God's slaves." And lastly, Luke 4:18, which states, the Spirit of the Lord is upon the children of Las Lunas Public Schools in the state of New Mexico, because he has anointed them to proclaim good news to the poor. He has set them to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and to recover of sight for the blind and to set the oppressed free. I pray these prayers as a parent of a student of the Las Lunas Public School District. And in closing, I pray we can continue to intercede on the behalf of our children of this district in the state of New Mexico, and for the parents and for the teachers and for the caretakers. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rodriguez, for your moments and for your thoughts for us.
Thank you.
I am on item H. Pardon me for a moment. Approval of consent items. I would stand for a motion regarding the consent items.
Dr. Osowski, I move that we approve the consent items except for item K6, approval of memorandum of understanding between Isleta Pueblo, University of New Mexico, Valencia campus, and Los Lunas Schools for Tiwa language.
Thank you, Mr. Talley. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Talley has moved and Mr. Bennett has seconded to approve all of the consent items with the exception of item K6, approval of memorandum of understanding between Isleta Pueblo, the University of New Mexico Valencia campus, and Los Lunas Schools for the Tiwa language. Is there any discussion? Mr. Vickers? Mr. Bennett? Mr. Talley?
Is this where I discuss or we wait and discuss?
We wait, discuss.
Okay,
it.
no discussion.
No discussion. Mrs. Simoia?
No discussion. It's fine.
Thank you. I will call for the vote. So for the benefit of the audience, the consent items are the action items on the agenda presented by the acting superintendent and staff for the board's approval. All agenda items have been reviewed by the board members individually. If no discussion has been asked regarding these items by any of the board members, the action items may be submitted for approval with one motion or vote. The action items that are not consented will be discussed prior to the action being taken. Mr. Vickers, I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Talley?
Yes.
Mrs. Simoia?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion passes 5-0. So now I would like to go right to item K6. Item K is the Finance Committee items. That meeting was held October 8th, 2024. Item number 6 is the approval of memorandum of understanding between Isleta Pueblo, University of New Mexico, Valencia campus, and the Los Lunas Schools for the Tiwa language. I would stand for a motion to approve that. Discussion.
I move we approve item K6.
Well, we go for approval so that we can get to discussion. Mr. Talley would like to have some discussion about that. So before we can discuss, we first have to have approval of it and then how we vote. Okay,
I think discussion first.
I'm sorry, who?
Oh, I'm sorry, point of order. I believe we have to, it's on the table for discussion at this point before we vote to approve it.
Right, but we have to get to discussion. We haven't gotten to discussion because it's not, we approved all of the consent items except that one. So now we have to raise this back up as an opportunity for approval. Then we go to discussion. How we vote is how we vote.
Okay,
So the vote comes after discussion.
okay, to bring
But
it
that's a
to,
great point of order. Okay, I would stand for a motion for the approval of item K6. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Rivers. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I would stand for discussion now. Mr. Talley, this is your.
Yes, so
I-
I have a couple of questions for Ms. Chavez. And one of them was partially answered before when we were looking at the finance items. These courses, how are they funded?
So I'm actually going to turn this over to Ms. Montano, who oversees the MOU.
So the way in which they are funded is we pay for the FTE and then we get compensated from that after we have our tally of how much it's cost. They then compensate us for us.
And is that from federal funding?
It's from operational, am I correct, Sandy?
Madam President, members of the board, actually, we do pay for the FTE out of the operational fund. It's part of it's a class. However, those teachers do receive a stipend for teaching a dual credit course. And then UNM provides us with a list of those teachers, the amount that they're supposed to receive in the stipend, and a check. And then the benefits, all the payroll taxes on those stipends. So once we receive those funds for the stipends, then we pay the teacher for those.
Okay, those funds for the stipend though, is that out of federal fund? Earlier, we saw that one of them was from Fund 25184, which is an Indian education grant. Previously, I spoke with Walt Gibson when he was acting superintendent, and he indicated that that course was paid from federal funding out of the Indian Education Act. Is that still correct?
That would be the reimbursement for that would.
Okay.
Maybe perhaps with UNM because.
So it's reimbursed through federal
Yeah,
funds?
so whatever money we put out for the stipend portion is reimbursed, so it's a wash.
With federal funds?
It's, no, I just do it out of operational because I'm getting, I'll deposit that money into the operational account and then pay it out of the operational account. Instead of, because when it's normally like it's something we're gonna have with federal funds, then we have to ask for reimbursement.
And Mr. Talley, the Pueblo of Isleta pays for their salaries. The TWIL language teachers.
Yes, and it's my understanding that federal funding.
That's how Isleta pays for it. That would be out of their funding.
Okay, then the reason I'm making this point is because who can take the class?
This is only offered for students that live within the Pueblo of Isleta.
Okay, so the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VI says, no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So I have a concern with how this is being funded and who can and cannot take the course.
And I understand. So the district doesn't use our federal funds. The Pueblo of Isleta pays for the classes. And we offer it as part of a dual enrollment class on our campus because it's during the school day,
So eventually it comes out of federal funding though.
not from Losuna schools. But I know where you're going, but it's not from Losuna schools federal funding.
it's not funding we receive from feds, it's funding
So-
Isleta receives.
Have we ever had a non-Pueblo student asked to take the class?
Not.
Yes.
We have,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, I did not know that.
So in the past, there has been special permission granted to certain students. They can petition and can be granted that. It's not very common and usually they're told no. So. I'm just concerned if it's federal funding and students are being excluded. I have no problem with the class. I actually think it's a great class and I know that it helps preserve, you know, the cultural heritage. However, our students have the option of taking one language. They don't have other options. Also, those Spanish classes are often full and it's hard to get into them. And also it's during school time, so the resources, I'm just worried that if it is federal funding, which I realize Los Lunas Schools is not paying out of federal funds.
Right.
However, eventually it is being reimbursed by federal funds.
Those salaries, not ours, but those salaries are paid directly by Isleta though.
Yes.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, we put it on our payroll, but then we get the money back, right?
No, they're paid directly from Isleta.
Right.
So.
Isleta Park, that's the stipend.
So in the MOU, do we specifically limit enrollment to students from the Isleta tribe in the MOU?
Yes. Like says, language class will be taught exclusively to Pueblo of Isleta students by a Tiwa language teacher.
So I'm hearing your concern and it is troubling. I am wondering if we need to table this until next month and let's see if we can get the Ortiz Law Firm to give us a ruling back on that one.
We can.
So I want to add to that. I know that there are other school districts in the state that have similar programs with various native languages. And my intent here is not to do away with the language, but because this particular Civil Rights Act for equality amongst all of our students, I think that it's something that we need to discuss. And just because other districts do this and it's been done in the past, does not necessarily make it the right thing to do.
I think it's worthy of consideration and I think you are correct for bringing that up. And I think let's make sure that we get a legal opinion back on that one. And let's address this fairly. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention.
Madam President, may I add? Since this is a memorandum that involves both the Pueblo of Isleta and the University of New Mexico, perhaps they should be in part of this conversation as well, whether or not there's a number of limited students to the classroom for educational purposes, 1-to-6 ratio or what, and to see if it really was Isleta's intent to preclude or exclude non-Isleta Pueblo students, because it may be as simple as opening that up based upon the eligibility or availability of enrollment. So including them in the conversation might be a good thing because it is a memorandum between us and the Pueblo of Isleta and UNM Valencia campus. So
That's a good point.
and I do understand the sacredness of the language and the culture and the purpose for the school, for Isleta to want their students to have this. But I do agree, but there may be something to do with funding that we're not aware, so the Ortiz Law Firm might be able to help us with that as well. So,
And possibly facilitate a conversation.
We can, and I just want to add that when the MOU comes around specifically for this course, this is a frequent discussion because of the way it's written and who is allowed to take the course. So we will definitely have another lawyer look at it as well.
Okay, that's an awesome idea. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Talley, for raising
you.
that. I am going to call for the vote. I'm going to remind you of the motion. It was to approve the memorandum of understanding. So I'm going to call for that vote.
So do we, just for procedural, we vote on that and then you made a comment about tabling this.
Which would mean that I would ask for it to be, I would put it on next month's agenda.
Okay, I'm just wondering if we vote for the table now or after.
We would have to amend the motion.
Okay.
Okay, so either gets us the same place, right? It gets
Yes.
us to next month's agenda. So I'm going to call for the vote on the approval of the memorandum. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Did you say you could amend?
No, we were discussing a procedural thing, and one of two options is, one, we could amend the motion to table it, which would just put it on to next month's BOE meeting agenda, or two, vote on it as the motion stands, which the motion is to approve the MOU. Not knowing how anybody's going to vote, but we could go ahead and take the vote, because that's how the motion stands.
And if it was voted down,
And we would put it on next month's agenda.
We could do that during the new business.
We could do that during.
Is it easier to amend the motion? Because we're already discussing it to, the motion on the table is to approve the memorandum.
How about I do that? I wish to amend the motion to table the approval of the MOU between Isleta Pueblo, University of New Mexico, Valencia campus, and Losana Schools for the Tiwa language. So we will, do I have a second?
I think you need the motion maker to amend it,
I think
which is.
Okay, so please, Mr. Vickers,
There you go.
if you wish.
if you wish, if you don't wish.
So I
We
move
have
that
a-
we, to amend my motion, or actually withdraw it and change it to a motion to table.
So is, you are removing your motion and then you're adding the motion to table.
Second.
Thank you. We've had discussion. I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yeah.
Mr. Tally?
Yes.
Mrs. Simoia?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion passes 5-0 to table the approval of the memorandum of understanding between the Isleta Pueblo, University of New Mexico, Valencia campus, and Losana Schools for Tiwa language. This moves us on to item L. New business. At this time, I will ask if there are any board member requests for topics to be discussed on upcoming work sessions or regular or special meetings. Mr. Vickers, do you have any topics for either work sessions or for the next regular meeting?
I think we need to try to get a work session regarding the SRO policies. And then also board governance. Both of those items.
I have both of those scheduled for the November 12th, 2024 work session, which was not listed on our agenda. I'm just going to fast forward. I have BOE policy B0900, which is board organizational meetings. That's the policy that you're interested in, Mr. Vickers. The SRO policies, athletic handbook review, and then we're still trying to get through section B of board policies, school board governance and operations. So I do have those topics listed for the November 12th. These are carryover topics. So
Okay.
is there anything else?
I have, maybe some, reviews on the handbooks of parent handbook and maybe the athletic handbook.
I've got the athletic handbook for November 12th. Which could we postpone the parent handbook to maybe a work session in December? Because this next work session
be
could
fine.
be pretty busy. Parent handbook. And I'll put that for December 2024. Mr. Talley, do you have any topics?
They've all been covered
They've all been, sure,
for now.
okay. Mrs. Simoia,
You've covered the ones, getting them because it would appear, it does not feel like we will get through all of those three in one work session. So I'm assuming one of them will be moved to the December one. So by next board meeting, we should have some opportunities for work sessions going into 2025.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
we'll bring them up at that time.
That sounds wonderful. This information was for the purpose of gathering input. No action is needed for this item at this time. We are on to item M, announcement of meetings. This brings us to the announcement of meetings as allowed by the Open Meetings Act and the District Open Meetings Resolution. On occasion, a quorum of the board members attend the same function, including school and district celebrations and ceremonies, as well as sports functions, conferences, workshops, trainings, and community events. Board members will refrain from discussing and or acting on Los Angeles Schools Board of Education issues in those settings. In addition, only official meetings are published, and if other meetings are scheduled, they will be announced in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. With that being said, I would like to announce the following meetings. November 12, 2024, the Finance Committee meeting will be held in the Central Office Conference Room at 3:00 p.m. November 12th, 2024, the Audit Committee meeting will be held in the Central Office Conference Room at 4:00 p.m. and the attendance is by Audit Committee members only. Also on November 12th, 2024, a work session from 5:00 to 7:00 p.m. Those topics will include the BOE Policy B0900 Board Organizational Meetings, some proposed language changes from Mr. Vickers, SRO Policy Development and Review at that point, the Athletic Handbook Review, and we are going to forge ahead and keep trying for BOE Policies, Section B, School Board Governance and Operations. That is all of the policies within that section. If there's suggested language changes from any of the BOE members. On November 19th, 2024, will be a regular board meeting in the Central Office Boardroom at 6:00 p.m. We are on, I'm sorry?
Are you anticipating the work session will start at 5 p.m.?
I am anticipating that because your audit meetings seem to be
Right.
pretty quick.
Third floor. And then, will we have our materials well in advance to study?
For the handbooks
For the
and
handbook.
for the work sessions? We
Yeah,
will.
Whatever else might be, regarding the SRO policy, I don't know if anybody has a template for a starting point.
We will have that for you.
Okay.
He's asking, we'll have them a little bit ahead of time so that we can
Yes.
review.
Yes, you will.
Thank you. We're on item N, adjournment. With that being said, this leads us to the adjournment of this meeting. I would stand for a motion to adjourn.
Madam President, I would move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Mrs. C. Moya has moved and Mr. Bennett has seconded to adjourn the meeting. I will call for the vote. Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Tally,
Yes.
Mrs. C. Moya.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. This meeting is adjourned at 7:03 p.m.